Okay, guys, welcome to the Wrestling Angle. I am Chad Z. I am your host, and it's been a pretty good weekend for wrestling. We had the New Japan semi and finals this weekend, and spoiler alert: Will Ospreay is the New Japan Cup champion, so he will be getting a title match against Ibushi. So that's pretty exciting. Uh, Today we had NWA back for the attack and also Fastlane, WWE Fastlane. So two pay-per-views. Two pretty good pay-per-views, to be honest with you. We'll talk about Fastlane a little later, but I first want to talk about NWA back for the attack. Hope everybody has had a great weekend. This weekend hasn't been too bad for me. I got some stuff done around the house, and I got to watch Justice League, the Snyder's Cut. I had to watch it in two sittings because 4 hours is too long for me to just plain sit. So I thought it was pretty good. My buddy Gary, who does the Husky Heroes and Healthy Heroines podcast, didn't agree. After I listened to his podcast, I'm giving him a shout out. If you guys get a chance, go and check out his podcast. He's right on the money with a lot of things he's talking about. But after I listened to his podcast, he kind of changed my mind a little bit. And he brought up some good points. I still think it was a good movie. Good storylines. The only complaint that I would have, and I told him this, was that it was too long and it had too many time shifts as far as alternate timelines is what I was getting at. So, but the ending was pretty cool. But that was part of the alternate timelines, and it was a little hard to follow. If you hadn't seen the original, you could probably still see this one. But I think if you watch the original and then watch this one, you can see the difference in stories, and you can see why. I want to say Warner Brothers, I believe, decided that they were going to cut a lot of these scenes out. So, and they ended up changing directors. But and then we had some great wrestling this weekend. You know, like I said, the New Japan Cup was on. Today we had the NWA back for the attack, which we'll talk about first, and WWE Fastlane. So first off, the NWA back for the attack. Pretty good pay-per-view for what it was. And what I mean by that is, you know, they're still running without fans. Although they had, where the fans would have been sitting, they had a group of, I want to say, maybe 5 to 10 people that were cheering for the guys. And it really sounded like they had a huge crowd in there. It's studio wrestling, you know. It's what it is. It was NWA try and bring back the old school style of wrestling, which is studio wrestling. What Jim Crockett Promotions did before they decided to do arena shows. And those of you that aren't familiar with that, Jim Crockett Promotions used to do a studio show, live, or not live, but they used to do it on 6:05 on Saturdays on TBS. And they would use that show to build up their arena shows and or their pay-per-views. Um, and that's what Billy Corgan is trying to do. He's trying to bring back the old school style of wrestling, and he's doing a pretty good job. I'm really glad that the NWA is back. The only complaint that I'll have about it is that I'm not going to pay $4.99 a month to see their weekly television show. When they were showing it free on YouTube, I have no problem paying for the pay-per-views, but I'm not going to pay $4.99 a month. I've already got enough going on with the WWE Network and now Peacock, and I just subscribed to IWTV, which I'm going to start promoting on this show. Anybody that is a huge independent wrestling fan, you need to get IWTV. They have a catalog of tons of independent wrestling, and we'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. And and also, I have New Japan, so I'm not going to pay another $4.99 a month on Fight TV for that, when they could be showing the show on YouTube. And to be perfectly honest with you, they don't have enough stars to pull me in to get that weekly television show. So that's that. So anyways, they had their pay-per-view today, and the main event was Nick Aldis went up against Aaron Stevens, which is the former Damien Sandow. They had a number one contenders women's match. The winner of this match will face Serena Deeb, and it was Thunder Rosa. She faced off against Camille. They had a national heavyweight title match. Trevor Murdoch defended against Chris Adonis. The TV champion, the Pope, Elijah Burke, faced Tom Latimer. The debuting Tyrus, who is the former Brodus Clay, faced one half of the tag team champions, J.R. Kratos. And in a four-way feature, we had Crimson, Jax Dane, Jordan Clearwater, and Slice Boogie. They actually started off the show. So the show started at 4 p.m., which is a little bit unusual for a pay-per-view, but very smart for the NWA because it led right into Fastlane. And to be honest with you, the NWA is not strong enough to go up against WWE, and I would assume the pay-per-view companies wanted a different time slot. So NWA decided to go with the 4 p.m. Eastern, and it was a good decision. So we had the show. It opened up with Aaron Stevens talking about his title match with Nick Aldis, and this entire show was dedicated to Joseph Hudson, who was otherwise known as Josephus, or the question mark. He passed away last month. He was set to be on this pay-per-view. He was a big contributor to what went on in the back and also what went on in the ring. So Aaron Stevens, who was former Damien Sandow, was a good friend of his. And Joseph Hudson was a mentor to a lot of the younger talent because he's been around the wrestling business for a long time. He never made it to the main stage. The closest he did get to it was Championship Wrestling of Hollywood, and he had a feud with Tim Storm for the NWA Heavyweight title. You reminded me when he did the the easy for me to say, the Josephus character. It reminded me of Bruiser Brody, and he had the furry boots, and he carried the chain, and it was more or less like a cult type gimmick where he had followers and that. So, but he perfected that gimmick on the Indies, and he had a feud with Tim Storm when he was the NWA champion. So, so then we got both. Aaron Stevens was saying how he's dedicating this match to Joseph Hudson, and he wants to win the title for him. They also did a interview with Nick Aldis, and he said the same thing. I have to say this about the NWA. Nick Aldis does a very good job as representing the NWA as their champion. He looks like a champion. He wrestles like a champion, and he's been defending the belt on Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. They were also doing it on some indie pay-per-views. But, I mean, this guy does a great job representing the NWA. So, so that's how the show basically started with these intros. On commentary, we have Joe Galley and Tim Storm. And Kyle Davis was the interviewer. So we got when the NWA went on hiatus because of COVID, they had Wade Barrett as one of their commentators. Well, obviously Wade Barrett has moved on to NXT, and the NWA has lost a lot of their stars to the big two, AEW and WWE. So Kyle Davis ends up interviewing Nick Aldis, and he talks about how the NWA has suffered some setbacks, and he thanks the fans for buying the show, tells the fans that the show is dedicated to Joseph Hudson, and that's pretty much the end of the interview. But when this guy does an interview, you can tell that he's a champion. It reminds me a lot of when Flair. He doesn't have Flair's style, but you can tell the guy's a champion. The first match that we had was Slice Boogie versus Jordan Clearwater, Jack Stane, and Crimson. This is probably the only match that I didn't really like on the show. Jordan Clearwater, I'm just gonna pick on him for a second because he needs to go back to training. I'm not familiar with him, so I don't know if he's been wrestling on the indies. But he needs to make it look like it's real. As far as throwing punches and kicks. He did a lot of botches. He botched up a couple kicks and some punches that didn't look really good that he did against Jack Stane. But Slice Boogie, who I have never heard of, ended up winning the match. Jack Stane and Crimson were a tag team on they were a tag team in some of the independents, and they appeared on a couple of the very first NWA pay-per-views. Actually, I think they were a tag team in the NWA World Tag Team Championships. So they didn't win the belts, but they were in the tournament. This match didn't go that long. Matter of fact, not too many of the matches went too long on the pay-per-view. They basically, you could tell that they wanted to get the pay-per-view done before Fastlane started, which probably was mandated by the pay-per-view companies, that they needed to get off the air before they started. So, but that's here nor there. A pretty solid match to start off the pay-per-view. Like I said, I didn't like it, probably for the main reason that Jordan Clearwater did what he did in the match, and then I was not aware of who Slice Boogie was. So we got an interview in the backstage. Here's another thing that I could just throw a little bit of complaint in there. Mae Valentine should not be doing interviews in the back. You can tell that she has very broken English, and you really need somebody as a solid interviewer if you want to get the talent over. And all the backstage interviews were pre-taped, which you could tell that. Production for that wasn't all that great. They would shoot to the screen, and the screen would be paused, and then Mae Valentine would start talking, and she would bring the talent in. So she ended up interviewing Sal Rinauro, who, before the NWA went on a hiatus, he was in a feud with whoever Mae Valentine was involved with. I can't remember who it was, but she introduced him as her best friend. The second match of the show was Tyrus. He won against Kratos. Kratos, I'm obviously familiar with both of these guys. Kratos wrestles for New Japan Strong here in the U.S., and obviously he's an independent wrestler too. He's also one half of the NWA World Tag Team Champions with Aaron Stevens. I believe they won the belts on a independent pay-per-view. So the Wrestling Observer, who I'm getting this information off of, even though I did watch the pay-per-view, basically said this match sucked. And you know what? They're probably right. I had no interest to see Tyrus go back to Fox News as an analyst and stay out of wrestling. He is terrible, and he is way out of shape too. Kratos, on the other hand, this guy has been active in wrestling in New Japan Strong and in the independents. It really didn't do him any justice by being in the ring with Tyrus. So, and Tyrus ended up going over on Kratos too, which I think was a mistake. If you can tell why they did it. They want to try to get Tyrus over because he's now going to be signed with the NWA. He also needs to get back in the gym and training because he botched a bunch of spots, and the Observer says he was gassed within 2 minutes. So they're pretty brutal on the review front. So Tyrus ended up defeating Kratos. Next up we had the NWA Television Championship. The Pope, who is the champion, Elijah Burke, went up against Tom Latimer, who was part of a group with Camille. There's another guy who's his tag team partner, and Nick Aldis. His tag team partner is now in AW or AEW, and Camille's still there, obviously. And Tom Latimer is dating Camille, so there's a reason why the two of them are still in the NWA. Excuse me. So this match ended up going to a draw. It went to a time limit draw. They give the 6:05. So they give them 6 minutes and 6 minutes and 5 seconds. Or it used to be 6 minutes and 5 seconds. It's now 10 minutes and 5 seconds. So this went to a time limit draw. It was a pretty good match. Pope makes a pretty good TV champion, and he's a name. He was, before the NWA went on hiatus, he was managing the Beer City Bruisers, who are in Ring of Honor right now. They just re-signed with Ring of Honor. So this one ended up going to the time limit, and you can tell both guys, they played it off like they were pissed off. And Pope went to go shake Latimer's hand, and Latimer just rolled out. So, typical heel move. Next up, we got Camille. She went up against Thunder Rosa, who was just coming off that huge match that she had with Britt Baker on AEW. The buzz is still out there on that match, and both girls killed it. So you would think that Thunder Rosa had a lot of momentum coming into this match. But I think what's going to end up happening is Thunder Rosa is going to end up leaving NWA, and she's going to sign with AEW if she hasn't signed already. Camille ended up defeating her. Camille has been primarily known as a bodyguard for Nick Aldis, and she gets involved in his matches quite a bit. She wasn't out there for him tonight, but Thunder Rosa really was laying in the punches to Camille, and you could really tell that Camille is still green and still needs a little bit more training, but for what it's worth, she looked really good as far as her size and just her look in general. She's got that muscular look. She reminds me a lot of Chyna when Chyna first started. But Thunder Rosa really was the star of this match, and it had quite a bit of back and forth action, a lot of submission moves, because Thunder Rosa obviously has that MMA background. And I was really, not really surprised, but that Camille defeated Thunder Rosa. So Thunder Rosa put her over. This is why I think that Thunder Rosa is probably going to be leaving for AEW. And I wouldn't be too surprised if you don't see her on AEW this coming Wednesday. If AEW's smart, they will capitalize on the match that she had with Britt Baker. This match did nothing for Thunder Rosa at all. And she didn't really lose her momentum coming off that match with Britt Baker, but it didn't help her. And, even Thunder Rosa couldn't make Camille look all that great. So, like I said, Camille's got a great look. She's probably as tall as Jade Cargill, but not as muscular. But she does perform in bodybuilding contests. So the other interesting thing to this match was that Taryn Terrell was on commentary. Taryn Terrell was a former WWE diva, and she wrestled for TNA for a little bit. So, and I think she was TNA Knockouts champion at one time. So, she's got a little bit of a name that brings credibility to the women's division. To be perfectly honest with you, they don't really have a women's division in NWA. Yeah, they have a women's title holder, but they only have 2 or 3 girls, and they really need to beef up their roster. So it'd be interesting to see what happens in the next couple weeks once they start doing their tapings and they'll start on Fight TV. Next up, we got an interview in the backstage with Austin Idol. This part made absolutely no sense to me. He said he was invited to the event by Aaron Stevens, and he has been repping Nick Aldis pretty much. And I don't know, it just didn't make any sense. And it didn't add anything to the main event either, other than Nick Aldis acknowledging the fact that Idol was on commentary. So, next up we got the NWA National Championship, Trevor Murdoch versus Chris Adonis. I thought this was a pretty good match. I really like Trevor Murdoch. He reminds me of a combination of Dusty Rhodes and Dick Murdoch. He's got the look of Dick Murdoch, and he's got the charisma of Dusty Rhodes. Not as far as interview-wise, but in the ring. And so he ended up defeating Chris Adonis, and Chris Adonis ended up attacking him after the match. Hey, I want to welcome in Franchise. How you doing, man? Yeah, Murdoch has that old school wrestler to him. I just said that he reminds me of Dick Murdoch. Dick Murdoch, Harley Race, and Dusty Rhodes. So, and Chris Adonis is the former Chris Masters with WWE. Another ex-WWE guy the NWA got. Yeah, I was watching basketball today too. Before the pay-per-view started. I watched a lot yesterday, though. I watched the Gonzaga game, which I'm not a really huge fan of college basketball, but if I were to watch, or I shouldn't say, I'm not a real huge basketball fan, but if I'm going to watch basketball, I'd rather watch college. It's a lot more interesting. So next up, we got the main event, which was the NWA World Heavyweight Champion Nick Aldis versus Aaron Stevens, who was the former Damian Sandow. This was a nice back and forth match. Nick Aldis ended up defeating Aaron Stevens, which was probably no surprise. The only complaint that I could have about this match was the fact that Aaron Stevens looks like he's out of shape. He's not in the same condition he was when he was Damian Sandow. And but I mean, who am I? Who am I to talk about being in shape? I'm going to be 49 on Tuesday, and I got a beer gut and all that good stuff. So, and I'm balding on the back of my hair, and anyways, typical 49-year-old shit. But he, obviously this match was dedicated to to Joseph Hudson, and you know, it was it was a good match for what it was on the pay per view. It was a good main event. Like I said, something that didn't make any sense was the fact that Austin Idol was on commentary. He didn't do anything for the commentary portion of this show, or this match, I should say. They did do a lot of where Aaron Stevens worked the leg, which I really liked. That's old school style wrestling. Reminded me of the Andersons. You know, you work a body part, and but like I said, you know, he's Nick Aldis beat him, and at the end of the match, they both shook hands, and the whole locker room came out. Excuse me, and you know, they had Joseph Hudson's wife was out there, and she held up the question mark flag and all that good stuff. So a nice send the fans home, or what little fans they had, home happy with a nice feel good moment. All in all, it was a pretty good pay per view. Like I said, it wasn't. I'm not gonna pay $4.99 a month to watch this type of television show, because I can get better wrestling from what I subscribe to now, and you know, but like I said, it was a nice lead in to Fastlane, which was obviously the main event for tonight. So let me click over. I'm gonna take like a 5 minute break. I'm gonna click over and get my stuff ready for Fastlane, and I will be right back. Alright, guys, just a quick break there. I wanted to make sure that I got everything switched over for Fastlane. This is the Fastlane was the first pay per view that was shown on the Peacock Network, or Peacock Network, I should say. Easy for me to say. I actually watched it on the network, and it wasn't too bad. The interface to find it wasn't too bad. Um, they had a couple glitches here and there with the screen going like all squares and stuff like that, like they were losing the feed. You know, pretty much what AEW looks like on a weekly basis when you're watching their television show. And that was addressed with a tweet that was sent out by WWE that these problems will be fixed. So I actually posted that tweet on my Facebook page, the Wrestling Angle 1, along with some news coming out of the pay per view and news all this weekend with the pay per views. So the card was headlined by Roman Reigns taking on Daniel Bryan. Edge was the special enforcer for this match, so you had to know that he was going to be getting involved, and that is exactly what happened. We got Drew McIntyre going up against Sheamus one more time, and whoever won this match is set to challenge Bobby Lashley at WrestleMania for the WWE Championship. We got Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair going for the SmackDown Women's, or wait, no, the Women's Tag Team titles. We got Alexa Bliss versus Randy Orton, Shinsuke Nakamura versus Seth Rollins, Big E versus Apollo Crews for the Intercontinental Championship, and then Riddle versus Mustafa Ali for the United States Championship, which took place during the pre-show, which started at 6:30. And then what was advertised and then unadvertised, Braun Strowman versus Shane McMahon. And they did an angle where Shane McMahon was injured. We all knew he wasn't going to wrestle because I think what they're going to do is save that match for WrestleMania, because Shane is probably going to do some big spot like he normally does at WrestleManias. So him and Triple H have a tendency to come out of retirement. Not that Shane McMahon has officially retired, but when WrestleMania season comes out, Vince pulls out the big guns, and he considers Shane one of his big guns. Which, by the way, Triple H is in quarantine. I found that out this weekend. He was part of that COVID outbreak that took place in NXT last week, and it really put the kiboshes on a lot of their plans for that show. So that show, by the way, wasn't that bad. No, and they had to rewrite it, but it still wasn't a bad show. So first thing we got was Riddle going up against Apollo Crews. Oh no, not Apollo Crews. Mustafa Ali. I still can't get over the fact that they call him Mustafa. It's so stupid. They go back and forth so many times, you don't know what the hell his name is. But, so we got that. Riddle ended up retaining the title in a pretty good match. The only thing coming out of that match was because Mustafa lost, he was belittling Retribution. The first one to walk out was Mia Yim, and then Slapjack walked out, and then the two big guys ended up chokeslamming Mustafa Ali. So it looks like that they are putting the kiboshes on Retribution, which, you know, is probably a good idea because the gimmick was failing. So let's hope that, here's my hope. My hope is that Mia Yim goes back down to NXT to help that women's division, and going back to her gimmick that she had before. Not that it's a demotion in any way. I don't see it as a demotion, but I think she can do a lot for. She could add a lot to the women's division down in NXT, and let's hope that they keep Dominik Dijakovic and the other guy up here. I can't think of his name. And it doesn't say it in here, I don't think. Hold on one second. Mace. So Mace and T-Bar. Let's hope they keep them as a tag team, and maybe they can even bring in, actually, you know what would be a good person for them to bring in is the guy that's down in NXT. Actually, send those guys back down to NXT and have the guy that's representing, I can't think of his name. He was a Taylor brother in PWG, but send him back down to NXT or bring that guy up and have him rep these guys because they look really cool in their masks. Although I don't like the Retribution gimmick, they could give them a different name and have them be a tag team. So right now, WWE is lacking tag teams. So these guys would fit right in there. So Riddle ended up defeating Mustafa. The main show starts. We get the WWE Women's Tag Team Champions Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler with Reginald, and they go up against Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair, and they ended up retaining the titles. This match was, although I would have loved to see Sasha and Bianca win the belts, it was just there to continue the feud that the two of them are having. It basically ended up with Sasha Banks calling Bianca Belair a rookie and slapping her a couple times, which kind of adds to their feud coming up at WrestleMania. Adds to the match, I should say. And we're probably going to see, if I were to predict it, we're going to see Bianca Belair win the belt from Sasha Banks. They've been pushing Bianca. She won the Royal Rumble, obviously, to challenge Sasha at WrestleMania. But they've been pushing her every week on SmackDown. So we're probably going to see her win the belt at WrestleMania. Reginald ended up getting involved in the match. He was the main reason why they lost, because Sasha got distracted by Reginald, and Bianca ended up getting pinned, which caused the two of them to argue after the match, and then Sasha calling Bianca Belair a rookie. Like I said, it didn't do anything other than enhance the feud between the two of them for their match at WrestleMania. And, you know, it is what it is. In the back, actually, before that, we got the two announcers, Michael Cole and Corey Graves, talking about how Shane McMahon injured himself during training during the day. We all knew that this match wasn't going to take place because they took it off the card and then put it back on for the pre-show as far as being advertised. And so it's just leading to the two of them facing each other at WrestleMania. And then Shane can do one of his spectacular stunts and or falls or whatever he does. And I made a comment to my daughter when we were watching, is the only thing I don't like about this angle is the fact that Shane McMahon is calling him stupid. Is calling Braun Strowman stupid. It's a form of bullying, and obviously WWE has stopped their anti-bullying campaign because they've had a couple angles where the bullying has taken place, and I just don't see it as being necessary. There's other ways to get the two of them to get in an angle rather than calling Braun stupid. And actually, Shane McMahon had a shirt on. He had Braun Strowman's shirt, and over the Braun part, it said "Stupid Strowman" with the train. And it's just not necessary. With everything that's going on in today's society, with these kids going to school, and the kids promoting the schools promoting anti-bullying, they just don't need that type of stuff on television. They get it from they get it. There's a lot of that stuff taking place on sitcoms and all that type of stuff. You don't need it on in wrestling. And that's just my opinion. So we got Elias and Jackson Riker. They approached McMahon as he was walking out of the trainer's room, and he had his knee iced up, and he was walking on one crutch. So Shane McMahon had an idea that Elias could go up against Braun Strowman for take Shane McMahon's place later on in the show. They didn't say that, but you kind of knew what was going to happen. Excuse me. So next up, we got the Intercontinental Champion Big E. He went up against Apollo Crews. I really like the new heel gimmick that Apollo Crews is doing. The only thing I don't like about it is the fact that he's using the fake Nigerian accent. We all know that may be where his descent. That's great, but it's like back in the end of the Attitude Era when Kofi Kingston first came in. He came in with a Jamaican accent, and then he all of a sudden lost the accent. And they're doing it in reverse with Apollo Crews, and I just don't like it. He can talk normally. We all know he doesn't have a Nigerian accent. I've actually met the guy in person at a local show, and I know for a fact he doesn't have a Nigerian accent. So you're just like, when you do stuff like that, you're making the fans look like they're idiots. And, it just puts a bad taste in my mouth as far as me being a fan and watching these shows. So this was a good back and forth match. Big E ended up defeating Apollo, and Apollo, actually the finish looked kind of botched, but after the match, Apollo attacked Big E. So they're probably going to continue that feud going on in the next month. Actually, possibly going into WrestleMania, because unless Big E starts a new feud with somebody on SmackDown this week, you could probably see him and Apollo going at it. If not on SmackDown, then at WrestleMania. So, but like I said, it was a good back and forth match. The finish was just botched, and it looks like the referee was to blame. Vince tells all his referees that if they get a cover and the superstar doesn't kick out, don't hold up on the slap down to the ring, because it just looks terrible on TV. Although, like I said, with this botched ending to it, it didn't look good at all. So, I mean, for a good match, having a botched ending to it, Bully Ray says that Vince always says, everybody just remembers the finish. So, I'm gonna remember that finish as being a botched finish, and what those guys accomplished during the match didn't really mean anything. So, although it was a good match, other than the ending. In the back, we got what looked like a commercial for Old Spice. There was a guy back there who, his name is Joseph Average. He was selling Old Spice when he's approached by Tozawa and asks Joe Average where R-Truth is. And then we see R-Truth pop up from behind the Old Spice display, and what ended up happening is the display got knocked over. Joe Average was trying to pick up the Old Spice things. He ended up falling on Truth, and the referee counted the pin. We got a new 24/7 champion for like 2 seconds, because then R-Truth ended up pinning him again, pinning Joe Average again. And so he lost the 24/7 champion. I know Joe Average is a signee in NXT, but I don't know what his independent name was, or if he came over from another TNA, not TNA, Impact, and I know he wasn't an AEW, so obviously it was a signee that they brought up to just do this. I don't know if the Joe Average character is going to be a reoccurring thing, and it might have been just a thing where they slid in a commercial for Old Spice, because Old Spice could have been a promoter, or NBC could probably own stock in Old Spice. But to be perfectly honest with you, if you're paying the premium, package for Peacock, you shouldn't be getting commercials, even though this was part of an angle. But during the night, they were showing commercials for DraftKings, too. So that was a little bit disappointing. I don't know how that's going to work. I know I signed up for the premium. I don't want any commercials when I'm watching old shows like The Office or other things. So I don't know how that's going to work. But so that's that. So then we got a replay of Shane McMahon, how he injured his knee. He was throwing knees, you know. This guy thinks that he's an MMA, and he was throwing knees, and when he came down, it looked like he tweaked his knee. Obviously, he's selling it, so he didn't have to wrestle Braun Strowman. McMahon comes out, and he introduces Elias. We have Elias for a concert, and then he says that he announces that Elias is taking his place to face Strowman. This was basically just a squash match, and really is just to build up that match for Shane McMahon and Braun Strowman at WrestleMania. So we'll probably see that continuation of that tomorrow night on Raw. So like I said, it was just a squash match, and it really had no place on the pay-per-view other than to continue that match with McMahon and Strowman. So we got a recap of Retribution turning on Mustafa Ali. In the back, we got Riddle. He was riding his scooter, which my daughter made a comment that he looks stupid riding the scooter, but he ends up riding up to Shinsuke Nakamura, who is set to face off against Seth Rollins. And he's sitting there telling Nakamura a story, and then the camera pans to just Riddle. And then Nakamura, they pan it back to Nakamura, and Nakamura's gone. And he left the conversation, and Riddle didn't even notice it. But, and then as Riddle rode away on his scooter, Shinsuke come walking out, just shaking his head. So, they're pushing Nakamura, and I don't want to see him get involved in goofy backstage garbage like this with Riddle, because it's going to diminish his push. And this was a mainstream match with Seth Rollins. And basically, he just took the place of Cesaro, who Seth Rollins is feuding with right now. And Shinsuke is was a former tag team partner of Cesaro. So that leads up to the next match with Seth Rollins versus Shinsuke. This was a really good match. I made a comment to my daughter that this was probably going to be the match to steal the show. And it came really close. Seth Rollins ended up defeating Nakamura. There was a lot of back and forth action. Nakamura got a lot of offense in. Seth Rollins did the sling blade. Nakamura missed the Kinshasa, and that's when Rollins pinned him. Rollins also tried doing the giant swing that Cesaro does, and Nakamura ended up putting him in a submission move. But this did a real nice job in showcasing Nakamura. I would have rather seen him pick up the win on this, but Seth Rollins is the bigger star, and who knows what they're going to do with Shinsuke come WrestleMania. To be perfectly honest with you, I would rather see, if Shinsuke's contract is up, I would love to see him go back to New Japan. I've said that before. He had phenomenal matches over there. And with the talent they have over there now, I think he would be a great addition to that roster. One match that I would love to see him have would be against Kenta. And like I said, I can't put New Japan over more than what I normally do. If you guys aren't watching New Japan, you are missing out on some great matches. So Seth Rollins ended up defeating Shinsuke. So we'll see what happens with them come on SmackDown. See what they do with Shinsuke. Next up, we got the no holds barred match between Drew McIntyre and Sheamus. And I had said to my daughter that I really think that this feud needs to end. I have no problem watching these two guys wrestle, but I've seen it. And to have it on another pay-per-view, even though this is the blow-off match, Drew McIntyre ended up defeating Sheamus. These guys were all over the place, all over the Thunderdome, up by the screens and taking table bumps and going down the ramp and all that stuff. So it was a typical no holds barred match. The kendo sticks were used. But like I said, McIntyre ended up beating Sheamus, and now he goes on to face Bobby Lashley at WrestleMania. I wouldn't have a problem inserting Sheamus into that match either, because I think he deserves it. But that's not what's going to happen. Sheamus will probably move down to the undercard. They gotta have some undercard matches because WrestleMania is 2 nights this year, and so is NXT Takeover. So, next up, we got Alexa Bliss versus Randy Orton. And this was a very interesting match. I really liked what they did. Obviously, it was to build up the Fiend returning in some form or another. He did end up coming back, and he looked like something out of when Friday the 13th, which I'm not a huge horror fan, but I have seen a couple of those movies. and he looked like Jason when Jason got burned. They had him come out. His mask was all melted, so he's got a brand new Fiend mask, and his clothes were all charred, and he was wearing different gimmicks and stuff. But it's what they did during the match. Alexa Bliss was doing before the match even started, before Alexa even got out there. Randy Orton started coughing up that black goo, which just added to the effect of the match. When Alexa finally got out there, I don't know if anybody saw her Instagram post, but man, she looked creepy. She was dressed in her regular Alexa's playground outfit, but I think it was the contacts that she had in. And when she came out to the ring, she looked like a ghost. To be perfectly honest with you, her face was all white. She had the creepy looking contacts, and you can tell that she likes playing this part because she's really into it. She gets out there. Starts doing some goofy things with Randy Orton, starts skipping around the ring. There was a part where she was sitting on the turnbuckle, and Randy Orton went to go at her, and fire started popping up from the ring. She shot a fireball at Randy Orton. She was also skipping on the outside of the ring, and as she got to the one side, some lights fell from the ceiling, and it really added to the effect that she's a witch, and she's doing all these conjuring things. They got back into the ring, and then all of a sudden, a hand popped out from the bottom of the ring, grabbed Randy Orton's ankle. When he went to go turn around, the hand was gone, and then fire shot up from the hole in the ring. A really cool effect. The Fiend ended up popping out. Like I said, he's got this new mask gimmick, and he's got the charred clothes, and he ended up attacking Randy Orton. He hit Randy Orton with the Sister Abigail, and then Alexa Bliss ended up pinning him. And the funny thing about this is I posted on my Facebook page. Hopefully nobody took offense to it, but even my daughter made a comment, was the way that Alexa Bliss pinned Randy Orton. She was basically straddled him, and the Fiend was standing over. My comment was that don't judge me, but I was scared and turned on at the same time. So, but a very good match. Randy Orton didn't end up touching Alexa Bliss, which was good, other than the fact that she straddled him. She could have been up a little bit higher on his stomach and not on his mid region. Maybe they wouldn't have had these comments. But all in all, a good special effect match. And I hope that at WrestleMania they do a cinematic match with The Fiend and Randy Orton. So they've got the time to do it. And, with The Fiend being back, it's going to be kind of interesting to see what happens on Raw tomorrow. My hope is that they don't bring the Bray Wyatt character back, and just continue having the Fiend maybe standing behind Alexa while she's doing the Alexa Playhouse things. So doing not having him talk or anything like that. Just have Alexa do the talking for him, and do like a Kane gimmick when Kane first came in. Kane didn't talk. he had Paul Bearer doing the talking for him, and so we'll see. We'll see what happens tomorrow night. But on to the main event, which was Roman Reigns versus Daniel Bryan with Special Enforcer Edge. This was a really good match. My daughter asked me where would I put this match as far as the best match on the card. I would put it right up there. The next match to that would be Sheamus versus McIntyre. But another interesting fact is, and I don't know if it was WWE's mistake, but they have Daniel Bryan listed as going into the Hall of Fame this year. So I don't know if that's a mistake or not, but we will see. His contract is set to expire, and I wouldn't be too surprised if you don't see him go to AEW or back to Ring of Honor, because he has stated that there's a couple guys on the indie scene, Jonathan Gresham being one of them, that he would love to wrestle. And we could see the American Dragon versus the Octopus. So that would be one match that I would definitely pay to see. And it would put Ring of Honor back on the map. And I would love to see Bryan Danielson win the Ring of Honor World title, too. But I would rather see him go up against Jay Lethal or somebody like that rather than go up against Roosh. But obviously he's still in the WWE until his contract expires, and I don't know if it was a mistake the WWE made saying he was going into the Hall of Fame. So, but this was a good back and forth match. We knew Roman was going to walk out with the belt tonight one way or another. The one thing I did say was that, or my daughter actually said that she didn't see any reason that Edge needed to be out there because he wasn't getting involved until the end of the match when Jey Uso ended up coming in, and all I said to myself, fucking Uso getting involved in that match. It was me just being, getting into the match, and I hate the fact that WWE does so many damn run-ins, and you really don't get a clean finish. Because we didn't get a clean finish in this match. Because Edge ended up I said to my daughter, I said, it's going to be funny to see if Edge turns heel and ends up attacking Bryan for taking his place during this match, even though he's getting the match against Roman at WrestleMania. And sure enough, he ended up attacking both of them with a steel chair and saying that this is my match, and walking back to the backstage area. So, all in all, a really good match. Daniel Bryan looked really good in this match, and he had to the point where he had Roman tapping out, but we had a referee bump. There wasn't another referee that didn't come into the match until almost 20 minutes after the other referee got knocked out. I'm exaggerating, but it seemed like 20 minutes. But Roman Reigns ended up defeating Daniel Bryan. Edge got involved. Uso got involved. And Roman Reigns ended up getting the cheap pin. So they gave these guys a good amount of time for the match too, and which is good. I mean, which is what they should be doing for their main event. They should be giving these guys enough time to tell a story, and that's exactly what Daniel Bryan does. When he's in the ring, he's telling a story. He's an old school style wrestler. He likes to do submissions, and you can tell that he tells a story in the ring. So I would expect on SmackDown for him to confront Edge and possibly getting an Edge match. Um, we've got about 3 weeks till WrestleMania, so no more pay-per-views before WrestleMania. So I would expect a match between those two on one SmackDown before WrestleMania hits. So, but all in all, a very good pay-per-view. I liked it, um, which is which my daughter said is, wow, he has nothing to complain about. And I really didn't. I mean, they did a really nice job building to the main event, and so I don't give stars or anything like that, but I will say that it was a very good pay per view, and they did a nice job building all the matches, and they actually told us some of the matches that's going to be taking place at WrestleMania too, which I'm going to save those to another show because my buddy Gary and we talked about possibly doing, once the full card is announced, I want to go line by line like we did for Royal Rumble. And I want to talk about who we think is going to win and why, and talk about the title matches and all that good stuff. So we're going to do a special WrestleMania show. I talked to him about that a couple weeks ago. I'm going to have him come on, and like we did for Royal Rumble, and we're going to talk WrestleMania. So, but like I said, all in all, a very good pay-per-view. A couple things here and there that could have been left out, but like I said, all in all, a good pay-per-view. Out of the two pay-per-views that were today, I'd say WWE actually stole this one. So, and this pay-per-view was a hell of a lot better than AEW's last pay-per-view. So, and obviously cheaper too, because it was on the Peacock Network. So that's that. Let's see what type of news we got. Ooh, this is big. So Andrade has been released from his WWE contract, so his release has been granted, which is very interesting because he's currently dating Charlotte. My only thing that I would say to this is I would rather see him go to Impact or Ring of Honor, because the thing, they're probably going to be looking for. So Selena Vega has signed with AEW. That's what I've heard. It hasn't been made official yet, but I really want her to manage Santana and Ortiz when they break away from the Inner Circle, which is going to be down the line. So they can actually have Selena come in. She can wrestle and she can manage, and have her manage the Inner Circle to counteract Tully Blanchard on the other side with the Pinnacle, with MJF being the leader. So that's big news. That just popped up on the Wrestling Observer website. So Andrade has been released, and we don't know where he's going to go. Obviously, he's going to have a 90-day no-compete clause, I would imagine, and so he's not going to be doing anything for 90 days. He hasn't been really doing anything anyways, so they haven't had him on WWE television. As I reported on the Wrestling Angle 1's Facebook page, Barry O, or otherwise known as Barry Orton, that is Randy Orton's uncle and Bob Orton's brother, passed away this past week. And so my condolences go out to the Orton family. And Barry O was a job guy for WWE, and he was actually a big star down in Mid South too. Before he came to WWE, he was part of those. He was part of the talent acquisition that Vince did. He ended up taking some Mid South guys, along with Junkyard Dog and Butch Reed and all that type of stuff. And when he raided the territories. So Barry O was part of that, but he was brought in as a job guy. So, which I don't like the word jobber. I never have, but that's what it was called back then. It's called enhancement guys now. So they don't have a lot of those guys too much anymore. But Barry Allen, or not Barry Allen, Flash on the brain because of Justice League. Barry Orton was a enhancement guy back in the 80s. So we got the card for Elevation tomorrow. We got Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Hobbs are going to go up against Jarrell Nelson and Royce Isaacs. Royce Isaacs is the guy that is the former tag team partner of Camille's boyfriend from the NWA. We're going to get Max Caster versus Ryzen. Danny Limelight making his return versus Baron Black. Ty Conte versus Ray Lynn. And Lee Johnson with Dustin Rhodes versus Adam Priest. I listened to Tony Schiavone's podcast this morning, and he said that obviously Elevation is being used for local or indie talent to try to get these guys some exposure on TV, and then also giving them a chance to work for AEW and possibly get signed. So that's that. Let's see. We got one of the main events for Night 2, Stand and Deliver. It's going to be Karrion Kross versus Finn Balor. I think we all knew that one was coming. WrestleMania is going to be the first official, well, not first official, but it's going to be the debut on the Peacock Network, and the WWE Network is going to fail to exist come WrestleMania. So, Stand and Deliver takes place on April 8th and 7th and 8th. So we got the main event for Night 2. Like I said, New Japan crowned their 2021 New Japan Cup champion is Will Ospreay. He defeated Shango in the finals. Anybody that has watched the New Japan Cup, I watched every show except for the final show, which doesn't make any sense, I know. Will Ospreay will now get a shot at Kota Ibushi for the new IWGP World Heavyweight Championship, and that's going to be taking place at Shakura Genesis on April 4th. During this whole New Japan Cup thing, they were talking about how a lot of the wrestlers don't like the fact that Kota Ibushi has unified both the Intercontinental and the Heavyweight Championship, and I have a tendency to agree. The only thing I can see is that they want to push the Never Openweight Championship, and that's why they're getting rid of the Intercontinental Championship. So there is a drawback to having too many belts, which I think currently WWE has, with having both the Intercontinental and the U.S. title, plus the women's tag belts, having 2 sets of tag belts for SmackDown and Raw, and then having 2 heavyweight titles. You have way too many titles. They should have one WWE champion, and he should defend it on both shows. So the only thing I can think of is the reason why they're getting rid of the Intercontinental belt is because they want to push the Never Openweight title. So I would love to see Will Ospreay win the title, because I think he deserves it. It was really interesting. On Twitch, High Spots was promoting PWG all weekend, and I got to watch a old Ospreay match that he had with Ricochet, and he has really changed his style to more of a heel type style, and which is what he is in Japan. So I would love to see him win the heavyweight belt. I think it's well deserved. He's held the junior heavyweight belt, and then he has worked his way up to the heavyweight division. He reminds me a lot of Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega started off at the junior heavyweight and then moved his way up to the heavyweight division. So it's going to be interesting to see how that card goes come April 4th. And then yesterday, it was reported on Twitter that Japan had an earthquake, and it actually took place during the New Japan Cup semifinals. All the wrestlers bailed out of the ring except for Jay White, who you could see he was shaking around in the ring. It actually brought the pay-per-view to a stop. They never dropped the live feed though. They were explaining that they needed to make sure the building was okay and that everybody was okay in the building. And but I thought it was very interesting that they didn't drop the live feed when this took place. So generally this never takes place. I guess it's only happened one other time in Japan during a show. Japan is known to have earthquakes over there, so this one is on a 0.5 Richter scale too, so it shook the building. We got Roppongi 3K's Yo. He returned at the New Japan Finals. He wants to challenge. For the junior heavyweight belt versus Bushi, and he wants Sho. So Sho and Yo of Roppongi 3K. He wants to have a triple threat match. Oh no, I'm sorry, not the junior heavyweight title. He wants to challenge for the junior tag champs titles with his partner Sho. I don't know if I like this or not. Sho has been doing a really good job out on his own, although he has been in primarily 6-man and 8-man tag matches. He's been tagging up with Okada, but he has had some single matches along the way, and he's been doing a really good job. So I don't know if they're going to put those two back together and have them challenge for the IWGP Junior Tag Belts. But if they do, I'm not going to hate it. But I think Sho has been doing a really good job on his own as a single. So they really should push him going for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship. So I would love to see him go up against, I believe El Desperado has it. So, yeah, El Desperado has both the IWGP Tag and Singles Junior Weight belts. So, if you hear a plane going by, I apologize. I have my window open. It is hot as hell up in my loft, and it was 65 degrees here today in New York, and it was a nice day to be outside. Otherwise, I spent most of the day inside, buried in the basement, watching basketball and waiting for the pay-per-views to come on. So, also falling asleep, which I normally do. Anyways, on a daily basis. So, I think that's pretty much gonna be for tonight. We went an hour and a half, which is a pretty good show. I'm gonna go dark for a couple days. The next couple days are gonna be pretty busy. Tomorrow I have my Zoom meetings with my kids, and Tuesday is my 49th birthday. So happy birthday to me. Like I said, I'm going to go dark because I want to improve the overlays for the stream, and I'm getting a stream deck for my birthday. So I want to add some sounds and stuff like that into the stream deck too. And during this time, why I go dark and I'm improving the stream, I'm going to think about some different times when I do this, because I need to get some more viewers. So, but I'm not doing this to make money, guys. I'm doing it because I love talking about wrestling. That's the reason why I decided to start this show, is because I love talking about wrestling. So I think I've made that clear in the past on my earlier shows, but I want to improve the stream and make it a better show for everybody involved, the viewers and myself. So I'm probably going to go dark for about a week, get everything set with the overlays and the stream deck with the sounds, get it switching. I have 2 cameras along with a microphone, get it switched where I can switch the cameras back and forth, which would be kind of cool. And so it's all about improving this stream and making it worthwhile for everybody to watch. So I do have a couple shout outs that I want to send out to. I had a new follow on Facebook, Andrew Lentz. I want to appreciate that. I want to send out a shout out to a gentleman that I watch consistently when he streams, and that is Lagnarok Gaming. He is in charge of Lag Nation. He primarily plays Call of the Wild and Valorant, I think is the name of it. But he's an excellent streamer. It's a guy that I really look up to as a small streamer myself. He's been streaming for about 6 months now, and has really grown his stream to be a main streamer. So I give a shout out to him for somebody that I really look up to, and he's a great streamer. If you guys get a chance, check out his streams. He's a gamer, and he's around my age, and I really connect with him. As there's another gentleman that I watch streaming. He does Call of the Wild as well. His stream is Aim Fix, so he is in charge of the Trophy Club. So if you get a chance, check out his stream. But I'm gonna look to see if there's anybody we can raid tonight, which would be kind of cool. See if there's anybody on that I know. You know what? Let's read JP. So this guy that I'm gonna raid right now, JP, he is a he streams mostly Call of Duty. I met him from Tiny Pufferfish's stream. He plays with her quite a bit. So hang on, guys, and we will jump into his stream and we can raid him. Just give me 1 second. Alright, before we raid, I'm gonna you guys can check out my Facebook page at thewrestlingangle1. I'm always shooting up news up there. Check me out on Twitter and Instagram at ECW the number 4 LFE, so that's ECW 4 Life. And then, like I said, you can check me out on my Facebook page, The Wrestling Angle 1. This show goes up there, and it also goes to YouTube. If you're trying to check me out on YouTube, just type in The Wrestling Angle 1, all one word. It'll come up with my second logo, not this logo that's up here at the top of the screen. It'll come up with my second logo, and you can check out previous shows from that. So let's raid, go ahead and raid JP in 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Have a good night, guys.